I'm not going to let you play your best solo outplay, mate. So both of those mid lanes are going to be gone. We thought that there would be a lot of mid lane priority, but that does mean hopefully we're going to see a couple more oddball picks come out from both these mid laners.
Yeah. Continuing though in the trend for bans, it is these power picks that we've started to see emerge on 6-10. Trundle, of course, very high win rate over the course of the tournament, played as both a top and a support, and we talked about QSS changes. We were pretty sure it was going to make Trundle strong, but I do not think we figured it would make him this strong. He is nigh unkillable when you get to that late game.
I'm quite surprised that it's Misfits actually being the ones to ban this out, because Misfits have put so much priority on this Trundle, always picking up whenever they can, and it's either gone in that support role or in the top lane, and the fact that they would ban it on blue side suggests that they've got priorities elsewhere.
And of course the bans are coming in quickly now. You can see Ryze, Trundle taken off the table, followed up by those two jungle picks, Nidalee and Kindred, no surprises.
So Azir is left open here, which has to be the big mid laner of contention between these two guys right now.
But I mean, while we're talking about Azir, the biggest, strongest AD carry in the tournament thus far has been locked in by the side of Misfits, and it is going to be that Lucian. So a lot of priority placed onto Yuki 60 in the bottom lane. We've seen him do some great work on the Ezreal as well, but Lucian still remaining the priority.
Yuki has been the bit of a silent carry on the lineup of Misfits. I mean, the entire, every player here is a very solid player, but Yuki in particular is the guy that you can rely on to be that consistent damage threat from the backline. He neither does that with the Ezreal, or he does it with the Lucian. He does it with the Sivir as well, and it's really interesting to see that variation in Yuki's play.
Oh, I'm getting excited though. I'm like ready to cut you off at this moment's notice, because the Braum is going to be locked in on the other side, and the Vladimir as well for Medja Felix. I don't think this is something I thought we would see come out from Selfie, but the thing we have to talk about here is that Azir making it through ban phase, wants to make it in the game, and I believe just about every game it's won, if not every game it's won, or every game it's been in, it has been a win for
What
Azir.
I'm wondering right now is, are Euronics saying, we know you can't play Azir, Selfie, or we don't think your Azir is good enough to play up against us, so we're going to take away your next best thing. We know you're going to go for the Vladimir, and this is Euronics saying, I can play Vladimir too, what else have you got?
Oh my gosh. The challenge being issued, I think we can safely say. Now my question is, we've seen Vlad exclusively be a mid lane pick thus far in the tournament, but in other regions we've also seen like mages like Swain come out in the top lane. Do you think Vladimir could occupy that same role? Like, is this potentially a flex pick on the side of Euronics?
Quite possibly. It depends on how you choose to play the Vladimir. I believe we have seen a lot of teleport come out from the Vlad, so it can work in the top lane. The question is, do you really want to invest it in the top lane? You want those levels, you want those items as quickly as possible on Vladimir, given how much you want the cooldown on top of his Q. So by putting him in the mid lane, it's much easier to get those resources. You have that much support from Obvious as well, and it wouldn't surprise me to see him stay in the mid lane for the time being.
And of course I blanked a little bit there. Win rate for Azir, not 100%, not at all, but 100% pick ban rate until this game. So if he makes it through this pick ban, unselected, this is going to be
unselected,
super. I mean, keep in mind, this is 6-10. These are the same patch we've seen Azir dominate on, but there's been a lot of picks. Sivir has been picked up on the side of Euronics, as well as the Graves in the jungle, and on the opposite side, we've got a pretty strong front line now in the form of that tank Echo and that Rek'Sai in the jungle.
So throughout this tournament, Rek'Sai has been very underwhelming. However, if you've been keeping an eye on the LCK and the LPL, Rek'Sai has been a powerhouse in the jungle, actually moving more towards Chilling Smite, given as to how well it synergizes with his kit. We've actually seen a little bit more of a shift back onto the Sightstone, so that they're getting a little bit more vision in the jungle. Really interested to see how Wisdom plays that one out. Alfari on the Echo, not really any surprise whatsoever. This guy likes to play those off-tanky side lane split push. He has the third lowest kill participation in the entire tournament. They love to just leave Alfari on an island and say, you just do your thing, we'll be over here. If we need a TP, you come in. But other than that, he's just free to do what he wants, and an Echo is a perfect pick to set him up for that.
Absolutely, but on the opposite side, it seems like we have a lot of potential team fight power. You're waiting. Don't get excited about the hover. We can't break the cardinal rule.
I'm more excited about the fact that Azir could get through the pick and ban phase. And it looks like he's going to.
Regardless of whether or not Azir is going to make it through, Kassadin has now been locked in. Selfie picking up Kassadin in the mid lane. This is a pick. How does 6-10 affect this guy as a mage? It feels like only thing that's changed, obviously no changes to Kassadin, just changes to the itemization. Do you think that he's gotten better as a result of these item changes?
So I did see it in an it was actually an LPL match. Dade was the guy that brought out the Kassadin, and he struggled really on during the laning phase, but you have to remember the changes to Abyssal, the changes to Zhonya's, and now that there's so much more cooldown reduction in the game, he can start spamming out those abilities. In these late game team fights, he's super mobile, he's able to move around the map as much as he wants, and he can scale really nicely with the Lissandra item. optimization that we talk so much about, the Abyssal and the Zhonyas. You can be that sort of off-tanky with the rower, get on the front line, do your damage, get out, move back and forth, and just be this in and out sort of mid lane mage that scales really nicely into the late game.
Well, moving forward. Okay, good, they swapped. I was like, oh, Kassadin top. Getting excited, getting excited. So I want to look at both of these compositions. They seem like two very different game plans from Misfits and Euronics.
Yes. The interesting thing, actually, I just want to quickly touch on the Bard, taking that one away from Hadao. He has had some phenomenal performances using those Tempered Fates, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what Dreams can do on the champion. But you can see it with Misfits, a little bit more towards the skirmishing. Definitely need to wait for those items. Kassadin is so reliant on getting on those major items. Likely going to be the rower into the Abyssal very early on. And the Rek'Sai, it's kind of a strange composition from Misfits, whereas their only real engage is that Bard or setting up the flank from the Rek'Sai. And the last time we saw them have no real engage was against low priority, where they did struggle. They weren't really able to make that composition work. But the big change is the mid lane. Selfie had LeBlanc then, he's got Kassadin now. Magifelix calling him out, saying you can't play that. You can't play Azir, I think is interesting. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this mid matchup works out.
At the same time, Phones. This is a guy we didn't really get to talk about before the game, but he has had some excellent Gnar performances. Great ultimates, great team fighting prowess. I mean, combine that with the team fighting prowess of Magifelix, and it seems like there's a lot of tools in the kit here on the side of ESG that will... I mean, maybe it's going to be hard to stick to that Kassadin and that Echo, but if you ever catch someone out, it feels like they've got everything they need to just shut this down.
What you can see between these both teams is very much about the skirmish style of play that Misfits love versus the team fight play that ESG love. And it's going to be very much about which style comes out on top in this first game of the series.
Absolutely exciting. Of course, Misfits on the blue side, ESG on the red, Misfits representing the UK. ESG representing Germany. So a lot of national pride here for both these teams as well.
Both
our
teams.
Two finalist teams from our national leagues to make it thus far, shutting out the EU West qualifiers this time around, which is almost unprecedented.
Yeah. And we actually had a Nordic team make it out, 4G. Qualifying through. Anyway, let's concentrate on this game. The early game, lane swaps are something that we need to keep our eyes on. I imagine that ESG, with their bottom lane, perhaps could look for a lane swap. Lucian is a bit of an annoying matchup to go against, but with the amount of wave clear that Sivir has, she can definitely hold her own. They might struggle against the harass that Bard can put out during the laning phase, but other than that, it should be relatively easy, as we see Selfie taking a bit of damage early on, as the bottom lane of ESG are rotating up. So it looks like Misfits are reading this. They're expecting the lane swap to come out, and they want to make sure that they get themselves that 2 versus 2.
Absolutely. Lucian, of course, an early lane powerhouse, and Bard known for his incredibly oppressive level 1. Have to see if they're going to opt to start the camp here. Dreams is going to get spotted on the ward. A whole lot to move forward on. Of course, gearing up for the mid lane laning phase. I'm curious to see what happens. Dreams, you know he's there. Oh, no, that's not what you want. 2 stacks.
Oh, wow.
Just a quick flash over the wall. Not quite able to grab that stun.
Okay, so ESG, they held on to doing the Krugs because in the event that Misfits did read the lane swap, ESG wanted to guarantee themselves to pick up the Krugs, and they didn't want to have to deal with Dreams forcing them back. So nice patience coming out from ESG to read that from Misfits, as they are now going to set up for a potential gank coming up in the top lane.
Yep, moving forward. Of course, Magifelix actually taking a lot of damage in the early laning phase from Selfie. Selfie putting that magic damage shield on the Null Sphere to good use. Has to be careful though. Vlad, of course, with the Crimson Rush, just going to be able to heal up and sustain in this lane. So both sides pretty content to farm at this point.
So mid lane matchups are things that I do love to talk about, and in particular this one is quite slow because Kassadin can't really do much without items, and it's very similar for Vlad because his cooldowns are so long. He's not someone that can really push you around. He can be a little bit obnoxious because of the amount of sustain that he has, but because of his large cooldowns, it's quite difficult to regularly shove someone out of lane. The big difference is the lack of wave clear that Kassadin has, and moving forward, this could be a issue for Misfits because when you're going up against a Sivir who can be quite obnoxious shoving up against your turrets, having that lack of wave clear could be very difficult, but Selfie definitely will scale very well, and I would argue that Kassadin does have the slight late game advantage over the Vlad simply because of the magic or the magic shield that he gets.
Yep, moving in. Magifelix potentially in trouble here. Wisdom not going to get the knock up. Tempted to go further, but just a quick pull. Ah, yes, the pleasant reminder of laning phase against Vlad. Hard to get those ganks off. Wisdom, once again, could be in trouble moving forward. End of the line. Not going to be quite that. Obvious putting down some pressure where he can, but Just some skills traded back and forth, and already a lot of aggression coming in around this mid lane.
It does seem that way. If you can get Kassadin an early kill, then that's fantastic for your mid laner, given how much of a weak laning phase that Kassadin is known to have. As Alphari putting a bit of damage. Oh, that was
like
quite
the
nice.
Fancy footwork.
Yeah.
Doesn't catch the boomerang, so I'm not sure if it was super worthwhile, but does manage to get that out. And focusing back in on the side of Obvious, you can see doing relatively well in the jungle, but actually his clear speed is being matched by the Rek'Sai, not something we really expected. Graves with some of those damage nerfs, I guess, finally hitting Graves pretty hard in that clear.
Yeah, and during the early game, Graves isn't really going to be able to do very much. If you just look at the lane setup for ESG, there's not a huge amount of solid crowd control that Graves can follow up on. So yeah, if there's a bit of overextension from Misfits, he might be able to find an opportunity, but I imagine that a lot of the early ganking will be coming out from Wisdom on this Rek'Sai. And keep an eye out for the smite that he decides to go for. And well, as I mentioned that, just have a look at this. Obvious deciding to go for the challenging smite. We have seen this variation of teams moving away from the Tracker's Knife and going more towards the Skirmishes Saver, the chilling smite as well, and I think it's quite an interesting adaptation. I want to keep my eyes on what the teams do with their trinkets, because some of the other casters and I were having this conversation about perhaps the reason for this is because now with the changes to the blue trinket, junglers are more interested in keeping their yellow trinket so that they have the vision available to them, but I've also seen some junglers go towards that Sightstone, so I do want to keep a close eye on how the junglers decide to itemize and how it affects them moving forward.
Yeah, of course, going in. Graves utilizing that challenging smite for some extra damage. Alright, running forward, taking a decent amount, is going to try to use Parallel Convergence, block out some of the damage. Now committed to the trade, TP's coming in, but he's just flashing into danger. Selfie commits, Alphari is going to grab first blood. Trading back, obvious knockup from the Rek'Sai, the quick double, 2 for 1, Magifelix. They're going to back off that kill. No! Knockup again! Rek'Sai, so much power, but the pool denying any further commitment. And Misfits absolutely outplaying in that exchange.
Oh, bit of an exchange going up in the top lane, but that was largely just Alphari overextending a little bit in the top lane. He was very smart in how he played it, because he held on to... he stayed in the bush waiting for his parallel convergence to land, which actually bought him enough time for the rest of his team to join in. And then when it ended up becoming the 3 versus 3 with the double teleport coming in from both the mid laners, both junglers obviously being in the bottom half of the map, that's really where things start to swing in favor of Misfits. So have a look. Alphari, he's overextended just a little bit. The 2 members of ESG obviously have more damage, but they don't have vision in the brush, so they don't read the stun coming out from Alphari. He has now bought enough time for both Wisdom and Selfie to join, and because ESG had to invest their flash just to get themselves that kill, Obvious had no way to escape that situation. So very well played from Alphari overall to not only get a kill, but then to set up his team to get themselves another one.
And you can see how much this has paid off. Kassadin with that early kill, looking a lot more comfortable in the laning phase, able to even up the CS, despite being bullied out here early on, and now with the level 6 and that Rift Walk, it's looking a bit more comfortable as we see some aggressive pushing here on the top side.
Does seem that way. The possibility of a dive, a little bit risky against the Brawn, as well as Obvious being in the top half of the map, but shoving Cedrin underneath, just making his life a little bit difficult. You can see a slight CS discrepancy starting to develop between the 280 carries. This is one of the things you have to deal with against a Lucian and a Bard, as to how oppressive they can be during the laning phase. But the biggest CS discrepancy is actually developing between Alphari and Phones. Now, Alphari as a player is someone that we didn't talk much about, but he has been the very staple rock as Misfits going for a gank.
Nope. Hop, skip, and a jump. Going to make himself a little bit safer in that lane from Phones, but a lot of active Mac movement coming in from Wisdom, and focusing in on Wisdom, we talked about Chilling Smite potentially being an option for that extra CC. Looks like it has been what he's opted for. Now looking to contest this blue buff. Moving in. Has the level advantage, can in theory outsmite this, but it's going to come down to the battle. Wisdom is actually going to grab it just a bit too early from Obvious. Wisdom now owning that jungle, and Selfie dominating the mid lane here, not giving Vlad a chance to heal back up.
Wow, so Selfie having gotten that early kill as well as the early blasting wand is really starting to strut his stuff up against Magifelix, who's actually gone for... Ooh, Haddo.
Colin comes out, ignites. Quick flash, quick heal. Haddo going to make it to safety, but some huge moments of aggression here on the top side.
Does seem that way. It looks like ESG not quite respecting the damage potential that comes out from this Lucian and Bard combo. Really nice stuff coming out from them. But yeah, moving back down to the Australia lanes.
Down to the
Alphari
top
versus
lane,
Phones,
yes.
yeah. Alphari versus Phones. A little bit surprising that this Echo is actually constantly able to come out ahead. That kill is helping Alphari out a lot. And the fact that he's gone for a very early Dark Seal means that he does have a little bit more early ability power. Combine that up with the Doran's Ring, which is actually giving Phones a little bit of a hard time.
And as we see this Infernal Drake drop, remember that it is that 8% scaling buff. Ocean, the next one on the way. MSF taking some poke here. And looking at this Echo build, mostly we've seen it be the tried and true tank build coming out, but it looks like he's got the pieces of the Catalyst. Is this the Rod of Ages Echo that we've spent so much time talking about?
Oh, I would be really excited if it was, because I do think that the Rod of Ages Echo Top is a fantastic build for him. He can still go tanky, it still gives him that sort of off-tanky nature, but because it scales up, come the mid-game, and when you combine that also with the Glimpse of the Void buff, he becomes such a terror to deal with in the split push scenario. So, and I feel like it would fit Alphari's personality or playstyle perfectly, because that's how he likes to play. He likes to have presence in his lane. So I'd really like to see that coming out from Alphari.
Yeah, aggressive adaptation to a, I would say, overall more aggressive matchup. Of course, have to deal with that Mininar constantly bowling you out. Yuki left alone. Still looking pretty comfortable as he takes the boomerang blade there. Stun. Ooh, it's going to land on Phones in midair. That's a nice little freeze frame. Of course, just some aggressive trading here, though. No one really having the tools to follow up without a jungler there.
Yeah, it does seem that way. So, early game, going ever so slightly in the favor of Misfits due to that early trade in the bottom. Not that surprising, given that you are going up against a Rek'Sai as Haddow, who's looking for a play.
Oh, does get the two-man. That's excellent coming in from the Bardol. Gonna stop that engage in its tracks. Proactive play. This is Dreams. We were wondering how he's going to perform, and it looks pretty good.
Yeah, when you're going up against Haddow, who is a very talented Bard player, I was wondering whether or not he'd be able to compete, and looks like that Dreams is actually doing a fantastic job trying to put his pressure around the map as well, as we could very well see a flank gank coming out from Wisdom.
Wisdom potentially in trouble, though, is in the jungle. Haddow's going to get stunned up. This is not looking good for the Braum. No ultimate to disengage. The knockup coming in. Vladimir trying to make his way there, but he doesn't have the health to fight the Kassadin. Selfie over the wall. That's going to be the kill going down. Vladimir next to the fight. Bard trying to style his way out of this one. Is going to get the heal. Great play from Lucian. Flash from the MF. The fight continues. MSF getting burnt down. Does he have the pool? No. Double kill going over to Selfie in the 2-for-1 exchange.
This couldn't have gone any worse for ESG. Selfie picking up 3 kills now, 11 minutes into the game, is going to set this Kassadin up perfectly moving forward towards the mid game. I mean, that couldn't have gone any worse for ESG. The fact that Misfits, they're able to get the pick, Wisdom doing a bit of aggressive counter jungling, notices Haddow as he's making that rotation down. They set up for the collapse. ESG tried to go for the re-engage, but unfortunately it ends up backfiring and Misfits pick themselves up 2-for-1.
Absolutely confident play coming in from Misfits. 2-for-1, as you said. The second one of the game. Now 4-2 overall, the kill score, the 2K gold lead in favor of Misfits, as well as that Infernal Dragon. And we'll get to watch this one more time, but this is just great team play.
So the fact that Wisdom is here, he has the early game pressure over Obvious, means that Obvious is forced back, and Haddow gets collapsed upon because Obvious isn't there to back him up. And once Haddow is dead, this is where you kind of want to re-engage, but MSF feels, I need to get something back. Fantastic heal from Yuki, actually forces the flash away from Sivir, and now because MSF is overextended too much, it's just Wisdom and Selfie having so much early game dominance. I was wondering so much about this Rek'Sai because we've yet to see it succeed throughout the Challenger Series qualifiers, but Wisdom is making it work. He's demonstrating how much early power this build on Rek'Sai actually has.
Yep, Warriors into that Sightstone. You talked about this ahead of time, trying to get a lot more vision presence down, opting for these tankier junglers. Looks like we could have some action here on the top side, though. Dreams. That's not the bush you want to check. Is just going to flash out of that one. Knockup denied from Braum. But a lot of attention paid onto the top side from ESG. And Yuki, no hesitation here. But Misfits, they're making the quick play. They're looking for the response. Phones has already tried to jump to safety. Flash, hop. Gonna make it out of there.
Nice setup from Misfits. They realize that Phones is being forced underneath his turret. They realize that Phones is struggling to deal with the pressure that Alphari is putting out. Looks like he's not going towards the Rod of Ages. He's going to stick more towards the standard build.
I saw Ruby Crystal and Sapphire Crystal, and apparently that is, yeah, Bomby Cinder into Sheen. I guess that's probably the more realistic
answer. More conventional, yep, the more conventional build that we have been seeing on Echo. I'm going to have a chat with him afterwards and be like, yo, man, why are you not going to this build?
Just after the series, though, don't you know?
After this series. In any case, Misfits having a lot more early game presence compared to ESG. Obvious, a guy that we have praised a lot, because if you just compare the two junglers, Obvious beats Wisdom on every single stat line, literally every single one. Obvious has the highest KDA of all the junglers. Hang on a second, Magi.
Trying to buff that KDA now, staying underground, ready for the follow-up knockup. Transfusion, our Hemoplague goes down, no chance for the transfusion as Selfie now on a rampage. We're 13 minutes in, and that is a 4-0 Kassadin.
Well, Magi put him to the challenge. He said, hey, Selfie, what else can you play in mid? And Selfie's responding with, well, I can play a 4-0 Kassadin. That's what I can do. And with Wisdom, they have been setting him up fantastically. Things have only gone right for Selfie. Magi Felix, the fact that he didn't have his flash there, Misfits look to abuse it. They get themselves another kill in the mid. And now that the Rod of Ages has already been completed, I believe he actually completed about the 13-12 minute mark, means that this Kassadin is going to become an unstoppable force that almost nobody of ESG can deal with.
Yeah, you can see Vladimir instantly optimizing for some tanky stats there with the Spirit Visage. May be comfortable to fight just Kassadin, but when Rek'Sai shows his face in that lane, there's just not a whole lot Vladimir can do. Just such a low mobility champion against a now fed Kassadin, approaching level 2 on that Rift Walk, the cooldown continuing to get lower. And it just really looking like a rough road for ESG if they want to pull out with the win here.
It does seem that way. They've decided to put Vladimir in a side lane. They want to make sure that he can get as much farm as possible, make sure that he can ramp up. Wonder whether or not we will see the Warmogs come out. We did see that earlier on in the tournament from the last Vladimir that we saw. But it looks right now that Magi Felix has decided to go for the very early Spirit Visage, which, for those that don't know, works really nicely on Vladimir right now, simply because the changes to 6-9 mean that Vlad gets more value by building health than he does AP, as Alphari trying to be collapsed on.
Going forward, does start to the fight here. Not going to get any follow-up, though. Echo with some good footwork to get out. Meganar going to get popped. But once again, just a trade of blows. However, Selfie just consistently aggressively trading.
So there are a couple things I want to talk about, because lots of cool stuff is happening right now. So that, for a start, little nice interaction that Alphari does is he throws his parallel convergence slightly in a situation where he's not going to go, and then he dashes back in to get the shield, and then he goes aggressive. So really nice use of the shield from Alphari that I think if people want to improve their echo play, you should definitely check him out. The other thing, Selfie on this Kassadin, he has actually maxed his E. It helps with the wave clear, it is a fantastic trading tool, and because Vladimir's going to spam those abilities, it helps a lot with the damages. Phones.
Oh, Phone's in trouble, gonna get knocked up, trying to hop his way out of that one. In comes the Tempered Fate. Rek'Sai in the air, Phone's on the ground, about to be in the ground as he does drop out there. Unstoppable now. Hado moving forward, is going to get stuck into the wall there. That's going to be another quick pickup for Misfits. 7-2 the scoreline as Kassadin picks up another double kill.
Misfits playing the map excellently right now. They're always looking to set up some kind of dive, some kind of pressure, and it is thanks to Wisdom constantly moving into ESG's jungle, getting this deep vision down, and looking for dives like this.
Collateral damage used, trying to get the knock-up. Wisdom, hungry for blood there. Quick Caretaker Shrine to speed his way out to safety. Cedrian wants to make an impact, but just doesn't have the damage to fight the whole team of Misfits, as that is 5 members on the bottom. Alphari TPing in to stop this push. Misfits
have come to play today. They want to get themselves into the Challenger Series, because this is not the sort of pressure that we have been seeing from them so far. We praised ESG earlier on for playing like a team, but it is Misfits that are playing like a single unit. Phones, he ends up getting caught out initially by the Cosmic Binding, and then the follow-up with the Tempered Fate just means that Misfits can easily clean up that kill. Hado, he's then trying to retreat. He doesn't have his flash available, so then it's just an easy, quick pickup for Misfits once more. And I just can't emphasize enough how impactful Wisdom is being with this vision. He is just moving into the enemy jungle all his time, looking for wards to place as much as he can, and just reading Obvious's position on the map all the time.
See how strong Selfie is. Yuki looking in to get some action here. Selfie, has he overextended? Magi Felix going to use the pool. Could just be the cooldown trade, but Yuki's hungry for more. Smack into the wall. Exhaust goes down. Phones doesn't have the damage, though. Misfits are simply too strong. Magi Felix getting aggressive. Don't know if it's the right choice. Is so much healing, but in comes the calling. No pool.
No.
Oh my god. Not able to block that one out. Rek'Sai looking for the Prey Seeker. Is just going to hit Hado and has to back off. But Misfits, they are just on the heels of ESG at every possible opportunity, trying to find more kills.
Selfie playing so aggressively as well, dashing back into 3 members of ESG, knowing that he is tank enough to be able to deal with this. And something that we didn't even notice, he's got 10 stacks on his Dark Seal. He could very well, given that he's got 6-0-0, work towards that measure as if he wants to.
And I want to talk about this dynamic duo. 0-0-6 the score for Wisdom. We praised him. 6-0-0 the score for Selfie. And you can see those two always playing together, always getting these kills as a unit, and this is unprecedented synergy. We thought there might be a language barrier here, but clearly Misfits have got something figured out, and it is working so well for them.
We were a little bit worried coming into this because of Wisdom. Ooh, on the hunt gets popped.
Kassadin on the run. Riftwalk,
but
pretty reliable option. Just going to take a little tour around the blue buff spawn area. Wisdom working his way through this Ocean Drake. Happy to have a little bit of extra stats, but is going to have to give that up to come to the fight, looking for the flank. In comes the knockup, waits for the spell shield. Beautiful disengage coming in, but there is the Tempered Fate. Selfie ready to do the damage. Echo not going to grab the stun. Wisdom moving forward. The health bar starts to drop, but not before members of ESG. Obvious low. The double kill for Rek'Sai. Selfie, the 1v1, is going to snag that one in the end. Godlike score for the mid laner of Misfits, and they are dominating the opposition.
Wisdom saw the opportunity. He had the tunnel ready. He uses that ultimate to get the flank on ESG and start that whole engage. The immediate follow-up from Dreams was just absolutely exquisite. And Misfits just are playing like a team that are driven. They just seem so aggressive, so phenomenal throughout this early game. And think of all the plays that they've made, and we're not even at the 20-minute mark yet.
And we talked about the Kassadin being a liability in the early game, but they played around it so well.
Yes.
And now the Kassadin is an unstoppable killing machine. There is no one who can take this guy on.
It's unbelievable. I'm so impressed with how Misfits are playing right now. ESG haven't even had an opportunity to breathe, I feel, with the amount of pressure. They're taking advantage of the fact that Obvious can't match the early aggression from Wisdom. Going for this chilling Smite and Sightstone build means that Wisdom has so much more vision, can read Obvious so well and exactly what he's trying to do. And if we think back, Obvious only tried to set up ganks down in the bottom lane and none of them succeeded. If anything, Wisdom was always able to turn them around in Misfits' favor.
Very well played from the team as a whole. The coordination there just excellent. You're going to get a glimpse of it right here.
To have a look at this, the flank from Wisdom is the thing that sets it up. You get the 3-man knockup into the Tempered Fate, and then the lineup of ESG just gets split. Phones doesn't have his Mega Gnar, and it's just way too much damage coming out from Misfits on the sidelines. Selfie's getting a solo kill up against Magifelix, who just can't deal with the damage, and it's just Misfits playing the map so well.
And additionally, how do you get away from this comp when they're ahead? Bard with the magical journeys,
Exactly.
the tunnels under the wall from Rek'Sai, Echo and Kassadin hopping over every wall. The least mobile character on this team is Lucian. And he's got the magical journey to go through with Bard anyway.
Yeah.
So much up. And look, the dead man's
what
play.
a statement to say. The least mobile champion is Lucian.
That's what I mean. Look at this. There's so much engage potential. Technically, I guess you could say Bard is less mobile, but the way he's been using these Tempered Fates to just get over every obstacle in his path.
Dreams is playing super aggressively as well. Cedrin's the target.
Oh, Wisdom. Just dodging out the Winter's Bite there. Not too scared without the concussive blow stacks. But moving forward, Misfits absolutely crushing here. And Obvious without the Kindred, just feeling a little bit weaker overall.
I do feel like we are seeing a slight shift in the meta with... If you've been paying attention to LCK and LPL, you've seen actually Elise, Rek'Sai, and Lee Sin being a bit more popular right now in the jungle. And it's actually quite surprising how easily they push around this Graves, how he just can't match their early game dominance in terms of setting up these ganks. And I feel like Misfits have understood this and they're taking advantage as much as they can in game one.
Yep, definitely doing an excellent job. And of course, we have to look at some of the differences in these lanes. 218 to 163 in the CS department. Phones, no time to farm here. And Alfari, we've praised him for his Trundle play, but he is absolutely crushing it on this Echo. 2-1-4 the scoreline. This man, I mean, even in that 2-for-1 play in the bottom lane, he did grab one of those kills as Echoes. Was still able to kill the Gnar despite the fact that people were barreling down on him.
I mean, one person I feel we haven't given enough praise to is Selfie. 7-0-2 right now on this Kassadin.
You feel like we haven't said that enough? You feel like he needs another one? I mean, he definitely deserves another one, but I feel like we've said it once or twice.
I feel like we've talked a lot about Wisdom, we talked a lot about Alfari, and we talked a lot about the team of Misfits as a whole, but Selfie, it's just... Initially, we discussed the difference in playstyle. Selfie's more about finding those 2v2s, the 3v3s, the skirmishes, as Wisdom just
there's no one here to back him up. He doesn't care.
He doesn't care.
He just... Oh. back, gonna get no one can catch him.
The shift in playstyles, what we're seeing from Selfie, where originally he was more about the 1v1s, the 2v2s, the outplay potential, and MagiFelix was more about playing with his team, but now Selfie, he's always moving around the map with his team. It seems like the day that they've had off, they've collected themselves, they've identified their issues, and now it's not become like a solo queue team where they're just relying on their individual mechanics. They're now a solid unit that are making very crisp, decisive decisions and executing them perfectly.
Now looking for the flank. Spell Shield comes out, but Wisdom just gonna wait it.
Oh, wow.
Does just walk away. Not gonna get anything for that ultimate, but will make it to the team fight just a little bit sooner. No damage coming out from that Vladimir, unfortunately.
That was really smart from Wisdom, because he used his ultimate to fake an engagement onto ESG. That forces on the hunt from Cedrin, so now that's one less disengage tool that ESG have if Misfits want to start a fight.
And they're just splitting everywhere. Even Wisdom. This is probably the most irritating Rek'Sai we've ever seen. He's just running in. He knows he's tanky enough. He knows he's so far ahead. And Vladimir, opting for these tankier items, just doesn't have the damage to punish him for not building magic resistance.
No, he certainly does not. It does look like that the Aegis of the Legion has been completed. Hano desperately wants that Locket of the Iron Solari to deal with the double AP coming out from Misfits. But even once you get it, just given how far ahead they are, as Hano end up getting caught out. There's the Tempered Fate.
Good sidestep from Hano, but they're moving forward. Doesn't have too many tools to disengage. Flash out, Wisdom flash in. Cedrion getting burned down. Wisdom relatively low. 3 stacks on the concussive blows, but Yuki's hungry for blood. He's going to grab one, looking for the second. Selfie's going to take that one over. No, it goes to the Rek'Sai. Echo gets the solo kill. ESG getting pummeled left and right. They can't find even the smallest victory.
Oh, wow. Misfits just way too far ahead for ESG to even slightly contest. Notice that ESG, they wanted to try and get a bit of vision down around that Baron, because that was the next best play for Misfits to make, and because they were so far away from their base, because they didn't have On the Hunt available, there was no way for them to disengage from the super heavy chase potential that Misfits lineup has.
They are 15k ahead at this stage in the game.
24 minutes.
This is the point in a best of 5 where I think we have to start asking, what is the strategy for next game? What are the moves for ESG? If they don't stop this Baron, things only get worse for them. What went wrong in the early game that they can adjust here?
You've either got to match the aggression from Wisdom, or you've got to stop him from being able to get it off, because this change in the way in which Rek'Sai has been played, or this change from what you're seeing from the jungle, is taking ESG by storm. They have no way to respond to it. Obvious, the guy that's been outperforming every other jungler in the tournament, the guy that has the highest KDA, the highest kill participation of junglers, just the highest kill contribution, everything has been completely washed aside by Wisdom. And it is so impressive with how well that Wisdom has stepped up in this game. So have a look at this. Hano doing his best to try and get some vision in the pit. He ends up overstepping, and Wisdom sees it an opportunity to force the fight. Hano is able to avoid the initial Tempered Fate, but when you have Wisdom and Selfie running at you, all you can do is really run away, and you don't have On the Hunt. You don't have any real disengage, so it's just a slow bleed out as Misfits can up a couple kills, and oh, and Alfari gets a solo kill.
This is the point in the game where it's Misfits worked so hard to get this lead, and now that they have this lead, it's so easy for them to take these fights. This is almost a perfect game. The 2 kills come out, but no towers, no objectives have gone in the favor of ESG. The second Ocean Drake now going over to Misfits as well. Not that they need the additional power, but happy to have it as they have 100% drag control this game.
I think Selfie heard us when we said that he was the second highest KDA, because after this one game, he has just obliterated MagiFelix's KDA, and Selfie is going to rise significantly with that 8-0 and 4 scoreline that he is currently rocking.
Moving in, of course, just a stunning performance across the lineup for Misfits. Really showing us a lot more than we witnessed in the group stage, and clearly deserving of that first seed. Looking forward, though, this could be the final siege. Jumping in, Wisdom not actually going to get knocked back, but so many cooldowns burned. On the Hunt comes in, they just want the 1 kill, and it looks like they're going to grab it, the shutdown onto Wisdom. Alfari now running to safety, but meanwhile, the rest of the team is in the mid lane. They're pushing in, they're going to grab this first inhibitor, just about uncontested. Vladimir trying to make something happen, they're backing off. Emo Plague, not too much. Alfari moving in, looking for the stun. He is going to get one. Hadow locked up. Temper Fate comes down onto Phones. This could be the final fight. Hadow, Koling not going to get it because Selfie's going to grab the kill. Misfits pushing in. Inhibitor goes down. They've got a wave coming in, and they're poised to end the game.
They certainly look like they're going to take game one in what is a dominant one-sided victory for Misfits. I don't know if ESG are in a position. Double Cosmic Binding.
Moves in, looking for some more kills, but they're going to be able to close this out. It's just a matter of time. Cedrian goes down. Phones could be next on the list as Yuki is absolutely unkillable. Moving in, just a few more auto attacks, just a bit more CC to buy some time. Having a bit of fun with it, but at the end of the day, Misfits making a commanding statement with this first win. And just a slow, long, slow goodbye here from ESG as we play for just a few more kills and a bit more, as you mentioned, for that KDA. Absolutely insane game one. Misfits, it feels to me like ESG didn't even get a chance to breathe.
They didn't. I mean, what could ESG really do in that situation? Magifelix really struggled during the laning phase there. He had the highest KDA in the entire tournament, 11.2. He had died 5 times across 5 games, and in this game, he died a total of 3. I mean, there was so much pressure from Wisdom. He wanted to make sure that Kassadin could succeed, and that is exactly what they did. Really impressive stuff from Misfits and Wisdom in particular.
I feel like the Kassadin adaptation was so smart because Vlad's low damage. We know Vlad takes time to scale up. But let me tell you who scales just a little bit better. Let me tell you who's happy to have a pretty safe mid lane. It is that Kassadin. And realistically, dude got like Goomba stomped. Got absolutely wrecked. I mean,
Selfie demonstrating like, oh, you think that this new guy has a chance? Let me show you what happens to new guys.
Yeah, Selfie crushing it. We said he was head and shoulders above, and then we saw Magifelix's stats. We looked at his play. We're like, this guy's keeping up. This guy's got, obviously in different groups, but doing insanely well. And I think we praise Magifelix, and we're hoping, I think we have to hope to see more from him. His team certainly does, because if Selfie keeps getting to dominate lanes like that, if Wisdom gets to keep running into that lane and making these plays happen, there's not a whole lot of hope for ESG.
So moving forward, what Misfits need to remember is to just not get overconfident, because this is a lineup of players that has somewhat of a history of underestimating their opponents. I remember Alfari back in the UK scene demonstrated that he could play into anyone, he wasn't afraid, and that ended up backfiring quite heavily because he would overextend in lane, he'd get collapsed upon, and this is only the first game in the best of 5 series. So they need to keep a cool head, they still got a long road to go, and that they need to just keep doing what they're doing right now, because this works. Whereas ESG, they need to quickly change up their strategy, because a passive early game is not going to work for them against the powerhouse that are Misfits right now.
No, absolutely not. Of course, we're going to have to see how they adapt. That is our first match in this best of 5 wrapped up. We're going to head to a quick break, but we'll be back with Game 2 in just a few minutes.